The economic future of Americans has never depended more on the free flow of commerce over very large distances.
The overall state of the U.S.'s transportation system is one that's in very dire straits.
The situation is deteriorating rapidly.
As our goods now move more slowly than at any time in the last 25 years, we are facing competition abroad. In 1956, when the interstate highway system was launched under then-President Dwight Eisenhower, Americans traveled on average 9,600 miles a year. We had one car per household. The gross domestic product of the entire country was $345 billion. Today, we have an economy of $14 trillion. We have 2.5 cars per household. They're driving 15,000 miles a year per car. We are a nation on wheels. Add to that the million trucks that existed in 1956 and 7 million today on the nation's highways, delivering goods, connecting communities.
We're a very big, very horizontal country, and we need to be able to move particularly goods, freight, and so forth more efficiently than anybody else, more efficiently than we do today. It ought to be something that people who disagree about other matters of public policy can come together on.
We're spending about $70 billion a year, federal, state, and local, on our highways. Our needs exceed $100 billion. About half the urban areas are experiencing gridlock, costing close to $1,000 a year in wasted time for people parked in their cars.
In 1970, only Los Angeles experienced congestion costs in excess of $1 billion. Now, you have 110 cities in this country who are experiencing $110 billion collectively in congestion costs. Why? Because we haven't sustained the investment levels.
It impacts our quality of life. It's just almost chaos in some communities where this uncertainty of travel is really a huge negative impact on people's day-to-day lives.
There's nothing more expensive than a truck sitting still. It's raising the cost of whatever's on that truck by the time it gets to a customer. And second, there's nothing more environmentally damaging than a truck sitting still, emitting pollutants for much longer than it needs to. So the costs of inaction, the costs of leaving this situation where it is, are a lot bigger than most folks have had a chance to think about environmentally, economically, and even in terms of personal safety.
With 7 million trucks on America's highways, the possibility of truck-car conflict increases and has increased, and we have an average of 5,000 deaths in car-truck incidents a year.
Our nation's transportation system, it really is interconnected. It only functions properly if there's a seamless connection between our nation's ports, our airports, our rail lines, our highways and bridges, because all of our commerce moves in an intermodal fashion these days. We know where the bottlenecks are. We know where the choke points are in our transportation system. We need to focus those investments. The nation really needs to invest in what we've been calling a critical commerce corridors program.
I hope that we'll see a lot more creativity moving forward about the infrastructure that we invest in. And the best example I can think of is dedicated truck lanes that, from both a safety and an economic standpoint, are a big advance over what we have now.
Other countries are acknowledging that challenge. The European Economic Community Transport Ministry has, in its 20-year, $1.3 trillion investment program for transportation, concentrated on 3 critical commerce corridors throughout the European Union, where they have difficulty moving goods between cities and countries on the existing roadway because it wasn't built for trucks. It was built principally for passenger cars, and where their train shipments have not kept pace with the growth of goods movement. They are our competitors in the cost of goods delivered to the customer. China is on course to develop a 50,000-mile interstate quality highway system, mostly 6 lanes, divided access control, but they realize that they need separate roadways for goods movement to allow heavier trucks than on the roadways where trucks are side by side with passenger vehicles. So they're designing roadways to a higher standard to support greater weights, wider lanes to accommodate faster movement of goods, and they are directly our competition in the world marketplace.
First of all, we ought to be doing it yesterday. I believe there's a need for this building of support for a specific program, defining a package, and only the Congress can do this.
This is one thing government can do, if it does it well, that encourages the growth of the private sector, which we consider the most important part of society. It makes it more possible for people to build businesses and grow them and create private sector jobs.
Every $1 billion invested in a transportation project creates or sustains on the order of some 30,000 jobs. And the construction industry today is still suffering double-digit unemployment. So there's a huge job impact that from these investments immediately.
This is not spending, this is investment. Building our roadways, improving our bridges, investing in our transit systems, building truck lanes to sustain the quality of life that we've come to enjoy in this country. To keep the cost of goods movement as low as possible, we need to invest in this surface transportation system. And that's going to take a national effort.
And so there are very few things we can do, I believe, as a country right now that are more important to the economic futures of average citizens and the middle class we want to strengthen than to improve the infrastructure that we have.
We've got to expand the quality, the capacity, and the amount of highway mileage that we have in this country.
Done wisely and done efficiently, building infrastructure is a huge part of America's economic future.